Hello, hello, hello. This is Bukola Oladeji, and it's our pleasure to be here again tonight. Good morning to you, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining from. Thank you for always joining. We appreciate you always. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The previous editions have addressed a lot of issues. Basically, we called in guests to discuss some difficult seasons of their lives and how they were able to navigate through. When life happens, let me re-emphasize what this event, what this program, what this weekly program is all about. Uh, we are here to help people through the rough seasons of their lives, so that they will not feel that such seasons are peculiar to them, and make it very difficult for them to navigate through. We are here to provide enough support for them so that they'll be able to navigate through. Thank you. My name is Bukola Oladeji. I love my name, and I need you to love my name. The name is good as it is, and I need you to get used to that. We have something very important to discuss today. This is a very interesting topic for me because personally, with my personal experience, I know it is a big deal and should not be swept under the carpet. It is something that we need to learn about. If we don't learn about what we're going through, it may be difficult for us to understand, and it may be difficult for us to cope when issues happen. And that is why it is very important for us to discuss this issue. And like the broadcast I sent earlier, this this episode is going to be about abuse. It's going to be about abuse, and we are here to encourage people to know that okay, when you see these signs, when you're going through these issues, this is what is happening to you, and this is how you can relate to it, and this is how you can help yourself. I always say that for somebody that has been abused before, you may not know that it is abuse. And tolerating abuse, if you consistently tolerate abuse, it's going to destroy you. You may not know the effect, but it's going to destroy you. And it may be transgenerational. For somebody that has children, you may not have an idea that children are watching every decision you make. If you're somebody that has gone through abuse before, it may be difficult for you to make some decisions. And if you consistently tolerate abuse, it may become transgenerational. What do I mean by that? Your children are watching. They are watching the decisions you make when you are being abused. If you consistently stay where you are being abused, is a sign that you don't love yourself. Is a sign that something is wrong, is fundamentally wrong, and it has to be addressed. If you don't address it, it may have a ripple effect more than you can imagine. And the effect of abuse cannot be overemphasized. It cuts across every areas of life. It affects the way you relate with people. It affects the way you express emotions. It affects every areas of your life. And we're going to break down some types of abuse in this episode. Thank you for joining. Give me a moment. I'm going to take a break for about 10 to 15 seconds. Okay, thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for your patience. Okay, let me hit the ground running straight. Let me hit the ground running. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Okay, so we have something very important to discuss, like I've introduced earlier, and it is about abuse. Abuse, abuse. What is abuse? Abuse is simply an improper usage or treatment of a thing. Um, I mean, there's a saying that when the purpose of something is not known, abuse is inevitable. Let me take this for example. This is a charger. This is a charger. It is possible that I get this charger and I don't know what it is for. It is just for, and I'm trying to use it for something else. In that kind of situation where I am not using it for what it is meant for, I am abusing it. The intention of the maker is for me to use it to charge a phone. In a situation where I am not using it to charge a phone, I'm actually abusing it. And that is what abusing. That is what some of us do to ourselves in some situation, or that is what we allow somebody else to us. And I'm going to let me define the what abuse is again. Abuse is an improper usage or treatment of a thing, and that was why I cited this example. Often unfairly or improperly gain benefits. When you use something against the manufacturer's wish, when you use something against the manufacturer's intention, you have abused that thing. And there are several types of abuse that relates to human being. Let me mention a few. Before I mention a few, let me give another example, another definition of what abuse is. Abuse refers to the mistreatment or harmful behavior towards another person. In a situation where you are the one being abused, that's a situation. Another situation is you are the one abusing somebody. So I intentionally read that definition so that we can know that abuse can be in two ways. So it can be that you're the one abusing somebody, or somebody is abusing you. So let me go into different types of abuse. We have physical abuse. Hmm. I'm going to give some signs and indicators for each of these abuse so that when we see the signs, we can get familiar and we can seek help. It is very important. The essence of discussing this is not for you to just hear it and just, g- get back to your regular life. It's for you to address the issues, because to avoid it from becoming transgenerational. Thank you, Mr. Banji, for joining in. I'm going to invite somebody, but before I do that, I need to hit the ground running. I need to discuss some things about abuse. I was talking about physical abuse. Physical abuse. I would like to mention some of the signs and indicators, so that in a situation where we see such, we'll be able to help whoever is in that situation, and if we are the one in that situation, we will be able to seek help. It is very important. Why do we have to seek help when we are being abused? When we discuss the effect, we understand why it is very important for us to seek help when we are being abused, or we give support to whoever is being abused. Let me give the signs and indicators for physical abuse: assault, eating, slapping, punching, kicking, air pulling, biting, pushing. These are signs and indicators of physical abuse. It's more than this. We have when somebody rough handles you, it's physical abuse. Physical punishment, it's physical abuse. There's some punishment that are derogatory. There's some punishment that whoever is being served will ask questions. I mean, will question his existence. That is physical abuse. We have involuntary isolation or confinement. When somebody is being confined without their consent, involuntary, that is physical abuse. We also have misuse of medication. You are physically abusing yourself if you misuse medication. Some people will say that if I use two paracetamol, it's not going to work. So in that kind of situation, let me use four. That is another, but you are abusing yourself beyond the fact that it's drug abuse. That is another thing. But you are also physically abusing yourself if you can do that to yourself. Force, Forcible feeding or withholding food. When food is being forced to give somebody, you are physically abusing the person. Or when you refuse to give the person food. Unauthorized restraint, restricting movement. it is physical abuse. These are signs and indicators of physical abuse. Please, if you experience any of these signs, if you have experienced any of this indicator, don't don't hesitate to seek help. Don't hesitate to speak out. You need all the help, you need all the support that you can get, because the effect of this abuse can leave you damaged for the rest of your life. And that is why it is very important for you to address it immediately. Okay, that's for physical abuse. Let me define what domestic abuse is. Domestic abuse can be characterized by some of the indicators that I will mention. It can be psychological, it can be physical, it can be sexual, it can be financial, and it can be emotional. But because it's domestic, it's happening within the confine of a particular environment. That is why we call it domestic abuse. I just mentioned some of the indicators, some of the signs that somebody can be domestically abused. If you are being abused psychologically within a confinement, it can be within the confinement of a marriage. It can be in a setting. It is very important for you to address. It can be physical, it can be sexual. All these are under domestic abuse. All these psychological, physical, sexual, financial, and emotional, they are under domestic abuse. Let me say something about sexual abuse. Rape, attempted rape, and sexual assault is sexual abuse. Um, you know that most of us in Africa, we don't see when there's an attempted rape on somebody. The fact that it's not successful, we don't see it as a big deal. Whoever has attempted to rape somebody, we do it again if it is not addressed. That is why it is very important for us to speak out, to speak out. Yeah, people will judge you, I mean, but for your sanity, you just have to address it. Don't tolerate abuse. I'm going to get to that, but let me mention some of the indicators of sexual abuse. Inappropriate touch anywhere. Some people don't understand boundaries, and they can decide to touch you anywhere. If you consistently tolerate that, something is wrong somewhere, and you need to address that. Don't allow people touch you anywhere. You should define boundaries. I mean, for whatever it is, why would you allow somebody to disrespect you like that without addressing it? Then non-consensual masturbation on either or both persons. It's either I'm performing masturbation on somebody, or somebody is performing it on me without my consent. I mean, it is what it is. It is wrong. It is sexual abuse. Any sexual activity that the person lacks the capacity to consent to. We have issues of adults molesting children. That all these people are all around, and it's happening by the day. And one major issue I have about this is when it happens, people will just sweep it under the carpet. They will say, let's settle it within, let's resolve it within. It's a family issue. What is a family issue? You have just destroyed the life of somebody, and we say that it's a family issue. I have had several issues of rape, you know. But the first question I always ask before I go deep into it, before I call authorities or I escalate the issue, is, are you ready? Because most times, from experience, when I try to help people, victims, the next thing I will hear is that they have settled out. I mean, they have settled, is a family issue, they've settled. So we don't need to escalate matters. And they will allow such people to walk freely. And guess what? There's a likelihood that that person will do the same thing because he was able to get away with that first attempt or second, whatever it is. So it is very important. I always ask rape victims, if you are not ready to file, if you are not ready to go all the way, don't start. From experience, they don't like to go all the way, and I really don't know why. Sexual photography or forced use of pornography or witnessing of sexual acts, indecent exposure. These things are sexual abuse and it has to be addressed. Okay, that is for sexual abuse. Let me speak about psychological or emotional abuse. I mentioned psychological abuse as part of domestic abuse. I'm going to give details about this psychological abuse now. These are some of the indicators. Enforced social isolation, preventing someone accessing services, educational and social opportunities, and being friends. Let's take for example, I have a daughter, and she's not too social. She doesn't like to relate with people for whatever reason, and I am trying to force myself. I'm trying to enforce my kind of life. Let me do it the other way. I am the one that is reserved. I'm the one that is not so social, and I'm trying to make another person. I'm trying to make my daughter be like that, relate to people like that, being withdrawn. I mean, that is psychological abuse. It is psychological abuse. Removing mobility or communication aid, or intentionally leaving someone unattended when they need assistance, is psychological and emotional abuse. This kind of thing can make somebody to lose one's self-esteem. Whoever is in this situation can lose self-esteem, can lose their self-esteem, and that is why they need all the support that they can get. Preventing someone from meeting their religious or cultural needs for whatever reason. Why should somebody do that to the other person? Why should you prevent another human being? Everybody should have freedom to do what they are, to do what they like. I mean, practice their religion. If you find yourself that you're trying to stop somebody, if you're trying to dictate how somebody should think, how somebody should serve their God, you are an abuser. You are an abuser. Yes, that is what it is. Let's call a spade a spade. If you're trying to define how somebody should serve their God, how they have to do a particular service, how they should do a particular thing, you are abusing the person. Guess what? It's possible that you don't know, but you are abusing the person. And if you're in that kind of situation that you are being abused, please seek help. Preventing the expression of choice and opinion. When you prevent somebody's choice and opinion, when you leave them with no choice or opinion, you are an abuser. You're an abuser. I don't want to go into details more than that. Intimidation, coercion, harassment, use of threats, humiliation, bullying, swearing, or verbal abuse. All these are emotional and psychological abuse. And this thing can have a damaging effect on anybody that finds themselves in that situation. And that is very important. And that is why it is important for you to address it if you find yourself in that situation right now. But while she joins, I'm still going to delve a little into this while I allow her to discuss. Thank you for joining, Madam Shade Ajayi. Thank you for joining. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Madam. Thank you. I was, discussing some details about abuse and how it can affect people. I've not gotten to the effect. I would really want you to discuss more about the effect. I've talked about physical abuse. I've talked about domestic violence. Domestic abuse. I've talked about sexual abuse, and I've talked about psychological abuse. Can you please share with us some other types of abuse?
Um, there is one that is common, but people don't usually talk about it. It is called technological abuse. So if you are a woman, you're always talking your husband, around the house. Who just called you? Who is on the line? Or sometimes you sneak around to pick their phones, check their messages, go on their social media. That is what is called technological abuse. So you are an abuser. As a matter of fact, everybody should have the freedom of their privacy. So even if you are their wife or their husband or whichever way, you shouldn't be in charge of their gadget without consent. Do you understand what I'm saying? So
I do.
it is
Can I ask a
important we.
question? Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Um,
go ahead.
if overuse of a gadget, can it also be technological abuse?
Yes.
For example, if I
For
stay
example,
all day on Facebook, on any of the social media,
yes,
can
I'm
that be?
going there.
All
Yeah,
right, that's fine.
let me just elaborate more on technological abuse. So, as a parent, as a spouse, you are supposed to be doing some certain things at a particular point in time, but you are engrossed in social media. For example, a man who is supposed to pick the children in school at a particular time forgot and he was stuck with his social media. That's technological abuse. A woman who is supposed to prepare a meal got carried away with technology or social media. You're an abuser, because the way abuse affects people around you, sometimes you forget your responsibility, and at the end of the day, the people that you are responsible for.
Hello. I guess there is a break in transmission with our guests tonight. Um, before she continues, let me. Okay, I'm sure she'll be back. She was trying to explain technological abuse, how if you overuse a gadget, it can be an abuse. If you neglect people around you because you are carried away with your gadget, is technological abuse. And she also mentioned the fact that if you do not give your spouse or your partner freedom to access their gadgets, it is technological abuse. I completely agree with that. Before she comes back, let me discuss financial and material abuse. You know, I'll give the indicators and the signs of financial or material abuse. Theft of money or possession is abuse. Whoever has that money definitely has planned for it. If you take what doesn't belong to you, you have deprived somebody of something. So you have abused the person. You have financially and materially abused the person. Fraud, scamming, these are examples of financial or material abuse. I'm sure my guest is back. Let me
Hello, I'm sorry, I have to change my network because I realized that the other network was buffering. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. You can go ahead. You were talking about
So,
technological abuse.
about
Yeah.
technological abuse. So, because we are supposed to be responsible to people, either to our spouse or to our children, and the time we're supposed to spend with our family, we're using such time with our gadgets, engaging other people online, or just spending time with other activities, technological abuse. And most time people do not see it as an abuse. They think it's their private life and they want to enjoy their private life. But when we have it at the back of our mind that we are responsible to people, then we'll be able to understand how to relate to people, even with the use of our gadgets. We can do well with our gadgets than what we are doing presently. There are so many things we can do with our gadget positively, without turning to abuse.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chief. Thank you so much for telling us about
Hello, madam.
technological abuse. Yes, I can hear you. Can you
Hello,
hear me?
madam. Did you hear what I'm saying?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Hello, madam. Can
I
you
can.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello.
I think
Hello, madam. Did you hear
yes,
me?
I heard you. I heard you. I heard you perfectly. Are
Hello.
you good? I'm good.
Wow.
My network is good. I think the issue is with your net.
Okay.
Hello. Um. Okay. I think she has some issues with her network. Let me continue on the financial and material abuse. I'll say something about theft of money or possession. When you pick what doesn't belong to you, you have financially or materially abused the person. Fraud and scamming, you have abused others, scamming. Preventing a person from accessing their own money, benefit or asset.
Okay.
That is financial or material abuse.
Yes, I can
Are
hear
you
you now.
okay? You can hear me now, ma. I think the issue is with
Yes.
your network. You can go ahead, ma.
So um, there are other abuse that is common,
Okay.
especially when it comes to responsibility,
Okay.
you know, in the home front.
Mm,
For example, as a man, you are supposed to provide for your basic amenities, basic things like housing, clothing, food, and all that. But sometimes because you are distracted by some others, outside the home, maybe you have a side chick, the money you're supposed to drop at home, you are dropping for your side chick. You are financially abusing your spouse and your children when you are supposed.
we can hear you, ma. You can go ahead. Network. We apologize for the breaking transmission. I think he has issues. I'm not
Okay,
going to
can you
advertise for
hear me
any
now?
network here, but I think I used the best network. Quote me anyway. I'm not
Wow.
doing free adverts for anybody. So while we're
Wow.
waiting for our guest, um, can you hear me, Madam Shadi? Madam Rebecca, can you hear me, please? While we're waiting for her, let me continue with financial and
Yes,
material abuse. Okay,
yes,
please
I
go ahead.
can hear you. I think it's network.
Yeah, it is. You can go ahead.
So, for example, even as we are supposed sometimes to support our spouse, maybe when
Mm,
they are financially down, and we refuse to support them in the name of it is your duty to do it.
mm.
End of the day, maybe we have not been able to, our spouse has not been able to pay up this assist at that point in time, but you refuse to assist.
I'm with you, ma.
So financial abuse can happen directly or indirectly, as the case may be. And when you look at other abuse, you realize that at the long run, all the abuse that anyone can go through usually have an effect,
sorry.
and those
Can you hear
effects
me?
are always there with them. Yes, I can hear you.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
You can't hear me.
I was hearing you before I was
Okay, but can you hear me now? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay. So it's important that we understand what abuse is all about, because sometimes even the people claiming that they are being abused, they are abusers as well, but they don't know that they have been they've been in that position one way or the other without them knowing. So we really need to understand that whatever we do that affects the other person negatively is an abuse. Either you see it as something light or something enormous, whichever way. Either it's something light or enormous. Abuse is abuse. So it is important that every one of us understand what abuse is and the effect it has on the people we are abusing. Because the effect that such usually have on the people stays with some people throughout their lifetime if they refuse to do anything about it. Either trying to live with the abuse, one, or trying to speak up, or trying to just keep the abuse with them. At the end of the day, it affects health, it affects their emotion, it affects everything that has to do with them. And there's a way it affects their general productivity in life. It affects their character, it affects the way they behave. And today you see some people behave anyhow, and you'll be asking yourself questions. This person is an adult. Why is she or he behaving this way? The way people are behaving may be as a result of the abuse they've taken over the years, and they have not been able to open up to anyone or to go for therapy. As a result of not being able to open up to anyone or go for therapy, into personality disorder. And you see that people start misbehaving and start, relating to people in an inappropriate manner. Sometimes the effect of abuse may be anxiety, depression, anhedonia. Anhedonia is living a joyless life. You just see people being moody. Sometimes you think they are sadists, but because they have been able to take in abuse and they have not been able to work on themselves or go for therapy or try to distress, you see them living a life of a joyless life. You see people living a life of depression. They get depressed today, they're out of depression tomorrow. Before you know what is happening, they have gone into depression again because they have not been able to do away with the abuse that they have gone through, for a very long time. And sometimes some people don't even know that they are going through abuse. But whatever it is that they are going through, they take everything in. And at the end of the day, it may result into affecting their physical health and mental health. And at the end of the day, it may lead to death. Because some people, it gets to a certain level that they start thinking of suicide. They start having what we call suicidal ideation. And before you know it, because if they refuse to speak up or go for therapy, they don't know what to do. And the next thing is that I'm tired of everything. And that's how some people end their lives.
Wow. Um, Thank you for sharing some of the effects of abuse. And it is very important to emphasize this effect because people don't know how damaging, while I was doing the introduction, I said something that abuse can be transgenerational. And what do I mean by that? If you are my mother, if I have seen you tolerate abuse, there's a likelihood that I will do the same thing because I have learned by watching you. You understand? We discussed in the last edition that children learn by what they see, not what they are told. If I have seen you tolerate abuse, there's a tendency that I will tolerate the same thing, and I will not address issues when I'm supposed to. And that is why this issue of abuse is very important for us to get to it, address issues. Um, I have not gotten to institutional abuse. I experienced something very long time ago. I think 2014 at my workplace. As far as I'm concerned, I was abused. I could not say exactly what happened, but I addressed it like because I just felt that this is too much to give to somebody. I addressed it. I didn't mind losing my job that day. And honestly speaking, I don't have any regrets. I addressed the issue. I attacked the abuser. And she couldn't do it afterwards. What did I do? I did a transaction. I did the transaction. I did what I was supposed to do. But it was not authorized. And the customer came back and the customer was raking that we didn't do his or her transaction. I can't remember the sex of the customer right now. And I took the request back to my supervisor for it to be authorized. This woman, she was on phone, so I dropped the request and I said it's urgent. So she called me on my extension and said I should come downstairs. And when I got there, she started raking, banging the table for me, saying things like, in fact, you are a disgraced woman. I just said, what's going on here? I think I've had enough from you. Why would you address me as such? Because I did a transaction or that you did not authorize. You cannot talk to me like this, madam. See, you are the one that has the tendency to lose a job. If I lose mine, I will enter my 12 market. You can't address me like this. Between you and I, that was the last time that woman spoke to anybody like that in that branch. And we became so close, like sisters, just because I challenged her. Why am I discussing this story? Why am I discussing this story? It is for us to take lessons. Don't tolerate abuse. The moment you continue to tolerate abuse, the abuser has the power to forever be in control of your life. Something is wrong when you tolerate abuse, and you have to identify that. If you can consistently tolerate abuse, something has been foundationally wrong with you, and you have to address it. You shouldn't tolerate abuse. When somebody is trying to abuse you, please go all the way, scream to high heavens. Let somebody call you. You are protecting your mind from being abused. It is very important, and that's the essence of what we're talking about here.
So I'm going to share my own institutional abuse. I work in a financial institution, and sometimes we have meetings where we train people, and sometimes we use motivational books to train people on public speaking. So what happened was that there was a young person who just joined the team, and the person reviewed a chapter of the motivational book. That's, how we teach them how to do presentation. Mm-hmm. Immediately the girl finished her presentation, my direct boss said, how was the presentation? For me, I said the presentation was good because the person was doing it for the first time. Mm-hmm. So by my
judgment
review, yes, I realized that out of 10, the person got like 7. Mm. being her first time. Immediately, I said she got 7/10. My immediate response said, were you in this meeting at all? How can you say this person got 7/10? It means that your mind is not in the meeting. Can you get out of my meeting? I just turned my eyes and said, what is happening in this place? I pretended as if I did not hear that part. Get out of my meeting. She repeated it over and over again. And I said, hello, madam. The MD of this organization cannot talk to me that way. I'm not going to get out of this meeting. I want you to do your worst. Immediately, there was serious agitation within the meeting room. Everybody, you know, other colleagues were begging me, we don't know what to say. Do we beg the madam that says somebody should go out of the meeting? Should we beg the other person to stay out of the meeting? I wasn't going to leave the meeting. So the administrator of the branch came in and said, madam, can you, Mrs. Ajayi, just follow me. We need to just settle this matter. Immediately I got to the administrator's office. I said today, even before I left, I said something. I said, madam, I'm going to call my lawyer. I'm going to sue you for bullying. You know, everyone around was looking at me as it got into this level.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, this person, she's used to bullying people, talking to people anyhow. She will tell you, either you do your job or not, I'm going to succeed. I can do without you people, making people feel less than human. That's I can achieve everything I need to achieve without you guys. So I needed to teach her a lesson by telling her, hello, I'm going to sue you for what you have done. So it took the administrator to convince me not to sue the person. And guess what? I am related to the person by blood.
Wow.
So sometimes you do not take abuse. When you take abuse, it keeps happening.
Yes.
Can I tell you what? That was the end of such abuse. And I realized that she was unable to do such to people around that environment, especially those people that witnessed the...
I believe she didn't even realize that she was abusing.
You know, of course, because people don't know that you verbal abuse is part of abuse.
It is.
Because
And
she
it's
was
very
really
damaging.
bullying me. Get out of my meeting. Whose meeting? You are not the owner of the company, for crying out loud. Even the owner of the company does not have the right to talk to people like that.
Sure.
What they do in an organization like that is to give you query,
Yes.
not to verbally abuse you or bully you. Do you understand? So there are procedures on how to discipline people in an institution. You don't verbally abuse people because you are their boss or you are the one paying their salaries. Things should be done in a proper and appropriate manner. Abuse is something you can stop. But I want to ask a question.
Yes, madam.
There are some situations you find yourself that there's what we call a flight mode. You take a flight, you take a flight instead of getting into a fight. There's some situation you are in that situation that the environment you may not be able to reject the abuse. What do you do? It does not affect you mentally, and in such situation, it will not affect you losing your mind, because you may find yourself in an environment where you may not be able to reject abuse. What do you do? Instead of taking a fight, you take a flight. What does that mean? Sometimes it is better to walk away than to confront such situation, because sometimes when you do not take a walk that we call taking a flight mode, you leave. When it comes to the issue of discipline, people may not see what the abuser has done, but they will see the response from you. And at the end of the day, you will be blamed for it. And it will lead to emotional torture. You know, you'll be asking yourself so many questions. You'll be feeling inadequate, because if you are taking a flight, you would have gotten healing rather than putting yourself into the stress of condemnation. And at the end of the day, such problem can escalate. And at the end of the day,
can I say something? Personally, this is my personal opinion, and this is what I have done over time, and it has worked for me, between you and I. When I notice any abuse, most times, I mean, like 80% times, I confront it. I confront it because I'm going to share the reason why I confront it. In the past, I've had reasons to have sleepless nights for months because somebody said just one thing, just one statement. Do you understand? Somebody said just one statement, and I will be ruminating over that statement for months, and I won't be able to sleep. And I'm not joking. In that kind of situation, I had to learn the hard way to respond to abuse immediately. I won't allow it to get cold. Do you understand? I will challenge the situation no matter who the person is, except if I am cautioned by the Spirit of God. I understand that there are times that you take fly mode. I completely agree with you. But most times, people will take you for granted if you don't challenge them. Honestly. But you said that we should take flight mode. How do you want me to heal? How do you want me to get closure without addressing the issue? Because I need closure to heal. Do you understand what I'm saying? I need closure to heal from whatever has happened. So if I just take flight mode, if I just walk away without, the person might not know he has done something wrong.
So let me the intention of the abuser is to make you sad. The intention of the abuser sometimes is to break your confidence, is to crush your confidence. So what you do, if you are going to take a flight mode, if you are going to switch to a flight mode, is to allow the abuser realize that whatever they are doing does not get to you. So what is my own style? I burn that bad energy in some certain, I call it a coping mechanism. For me, I dance a lot. When you think I will sit down and be moody and be thinking about what you have done to me, I will get a danceable music and be dancing. By the time I have done 30 minutes, I'm done. Everybody must look for a coping mechanism when you have an abuser you cannot confront.
Okay.
So I dance out bad energy. Then one thing you need to do is to create something like fence in your
boundary,
emotional wall. Create fence in your emotional wall, that you are emotionally mature to the level that when people throw tantrums at you, it doesn't get to you. They want you to be sad, but at the end of the day, they will end up being sad because they have not been able to achieve their aim. Because they are expecting to see you sad, moody. They want you to get distracted so that you will not achieve your aims and goals. But when you refuse to be distracted, and you are moving in achieving your aims and goals, they get confused. Instead of causing more pain to you, they will leave you because they are already confused. They don't even know where you're getting the energy, the confidence, the power from. So my advice to people is that they should grow to the level where they do not seek their joy. They do not derive their joy from people. They derive their joy from their personality, who God has made them to be, their confidence level, what they intend to achieve, and the goals they are setting for themselves to achieve those things. If those things are always at the back of our mind, we'll see those things as distraction. We'll see some of the abuse as distraction. And at the end of the day, we'll be able to win. And like you said, that your abuser became your friend.
Yeah. We became very close.
Do you know that there are different ways to confront an abuser? What you did was an open confrontation. Maybe the person has never been confronted openly before.
Yes.
Openly before. That reset our brain that this is not the right way to treat human being. But do you know that there are people
that day, honestly?
Do you know that there are people that if you do open confrontation, you end up being the loser?
That's true.
There are people that you confront personally in a closed environment. For example, somebody has been abusing you, you have had it here. There are times that you have opportunity one-on-one with them in a closed place. For example, a spouse that has been abusing the spouse, one day, unknowingly, because the other person wants the abuse to stop, the other person got a very terrible, I don't want to consider that, I will not be misleading anyone, a very something that can harm someone.
Okay.
So immediately the person came, said, I have something to show you in the bedroom, took the spouse to the bedroom and brought out the instrument, said, in your entire life, if you ever touch me, you will die in your sleep. I will ensure that you are sleeping and snoring. In fact, what the person did was to record where the spouse was snoring and sleeping. He showed him that, you see the way you are snoring and sleeping. If you ever touch me again, you will die in your sleep. And that was the end of the abuse.
But you know, it's not everybody that you can do that to.
I'm trying to say that what works for me may not work for you.
Yes.
So if open confrontation works for you, fine. Confrontation works for you. Look for what works for you and do it.
And then
above all, be matured, not to let, for example, verbal abuse get to you. If it is physical abuse, do something about it because it can lead to death. But verbal abuse can lead to emotional distress. When you create a wall, create a wall around your emotion, then it will be difficult for people to touch your emotion that could lead to depression or anxiety. Instead of them saying that you are depressed, they should see you being joyful, and they should be asking themselves, I've been doing evil to this person, but still, it's not even showing. I don't even care.
Thank you so much, Madam Rebecca Ajayi. We have actually spent almost an hour. I think we will need to come back to discuss the issue of abuse because it's a big deal and it's not something that we can discuss in a hurry for people to get the message. Thank you so much for for sharing from your wealth of experience. I beg your pardon, you were not properly introduced. She is a life coach, she is a mental health coach as well. And you can follow her on her social media. I'm still going to invite her, definitely. She's my colleague and she's a professional. Thank you for sharing from your wealth of experience this evening, and we're glad to have you. Thank you so much. You will be reinvited to discuss. We'll have to come back to discuss on this abuse. It's a big deal, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, my wonderful audience. Thank you for staying this far. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Like I always say, my name is Bukola Oladeji. I love my name, and I won't allow any abuser let me lose my name. It is my pride, and I'm very proud of my name. And I hope you can also say the same thing about yourself. Not only your name, do you love yourself? Has abuse gotten to a point that you have stopped loving yourself? Please seek help if you find yourself in this situation. You cannot love somebody more than you would love yourself. Bible did not ask you to do that to yourself. If you're in a situation where you love somebody else more than you would love yourself, something is wrong and you need to address it. Thank you very much for joining. It's been a wonderful episode. I mean, I've learned a lot, and I know that you have also learned a thing or two. We'll still come back to discuss the issue of abuse because it's a big deal. There's still several things that we need to talk about abuse. Thank you very much. My name is Bukola Oladeji, and I'll see you again in the next episode. Bye.